So I realized this morning, or well, a couple of minutes ago, that my audio never recorded, or I didn't have the microphone activated on my OBS setup, because I probably had the microphone disabled when I was recording the cinematic itself, so that the microphone and mouse clicks and other things weren't being picked up by the microphone. So I'm re-recording the audio on this video, or I'm going to comment on the commentary on this video. I don't know exactly what I said because it was fairly unscripted. But yeah, this is the opening sequence of that cinematic that I did. And when I had initially started the project, I thought of having a separate intro scene, but then I felt that it wasn't really very valuable, so I just put the intro kind of as a splash screen into the first opening sequence. In this scene, you'll see the sort of ship, and there was quite a bit of work that went into getting the buoyancy to work correctly. I reworked the physics several times on that. There in the background, we can hear some ship noises and some thunder rumbling. You can just see the skeletons moving if you look at the front of the ship there. In this scene, I added quite a bit of animation. I had to rework the skeleton on the captain, and then used lots of animations from Mixamo and applied those over the body of the skeleton, or over the pirate captain there, and the same for the other model. The other model's skeleton was quite difficult to get to work properly, and there was a lot of little niggles with it. I was originally intending to have some facial animations in this sequence, but time just ran away with me, and I didn't get to applying the facial animations, getting them in there. I tried to use LiveLink, the Unity facial animation capture tool, and that just kind of stretched the head really weirdly. It kind of made it look like a giraffe or something. It was quite whacked. The audio, I got one of my friends to record for me, and I got a couple of another two friends to record some of the other audio. So what I ended up with was these animations where the pirate was kind of gesturing in various points, and then returning to the steering animation. The main character there, having some conversational animations as well. Right, so also in one of the things that I had quite a bit of challenges with was getting the coat to work properly on this model. First fitting it, I initially tried to sculpt it in Blender, and that really didn't work, so I ended up getting myself the cloth designer tool that was used, Marvelous Designer, to make the coat, and pulled the model and the coat in there, and then resized and skinned and pulled the thing until it actually worked. So that was quite challenging. What I'm mentioning here is how I used a driving animation where the character was actually seated. So I used layers, animation mask layers, and masked so that the legs didn't move while applying the driving animation over the top of that, so that it kind of looked like the captain was steering the ship, although if you look closely, you'll see that the hands don't match properly.
Hold fast, lads! We sail into the storm!
The ship sinks as we go into the storm. This next sequence, I used the full screen post-processing effect, and that, coupled with the bloom, created this nice red line effect on the screen. And the idea was to simulate the character waking up on the beach, and so blink, that kind of blinking effect after the crash. And I thought this was one of the effects that I really enjoyed, and I thought came out very well, and was actually quite simple in the end to achieve, just using two black textures and moving them up and down on the screen. I think I used a shader for doing that in a post-processing shader. So there the eyes open, and then the camera pans out. Now here again, you can see our dead sailors, and I just cheated there. I made them play a death animation while the character was still waking up, and so by the time the character finished waking up, they were lying there dead. One of the things that I didn't do anything with and don't actually like is the uniformity of the sand texture. So adding a noise of some sorts to the terrain so that the texture isn't so uniform would have been a nice effect. That is something that I didn't get to. Also, the waves in the scene are supposed to be there, but I'm not sure if it's a bug in Unity 6 or where it actually occurs, because I'm sure it did have it somewhere working. But it's in the scene designer. When you're in the sort of editor mode, the waves are playing, and when you go into play mode or you build, the waves disappear. So just one of those bugs that I didn't have time to fix. You'll also sort of see the sand, the wind kind of blowing over the top of the terrain there, which was achieved with a simple VFX particle effect. Now here as well, the animations did give me quite a bit of challenges, because they seem to be forcing displacement or rotate, root motion at different heights on the ground. So I was kind of tweaking different animations to try and get them to all be on the same height. And here the walking was mostly okay, and then she kind of has that weird stop where she's floating. And then the running, you can also see that the foot goes very straight, which seems to be a thing that I've seen in a number of other Unity videos and tutorials around animation, that foot does kind of go out of whack. Now you can sometimes fix it by kind of applying the right skeletons, but I had the skeleton from the model, or I had the avatar applied via the model, and then also the animation avatars, and they just didn't quite retarget properly. So you can probably do some manual retargeting, but again, just time was not on my side. I really overscoped and tried to do too much in this project, so I didn't get to fixing that issue. From here, the camera will now pan up and show us the destination church that the player was heading towards. There we go. All right. Also some kind of terrain blending, and again you can see the textures being a little bit too uniform. I really liked how this next scene came out with the way that the lighting worked, and the way that the light orb spell interacts with the lighting. There was a bit of an issue where I think that this was the second run through of this scene or the sequence, and it seems like some pieces of it got remembered, even though the scenes were supposed to be unloaded. So I'm not sure why there was sort of this remembrance of it. But here you can just see she sort of summons the light orb, and then the light orb has a simple follow script, and it follows her around. And then we show the orcs. Now these orcs are from an asset pack, and the animations on them use a generic skeleton, not the humanoid skeleton, and I wanted to add some additional animations to them, but I would have had to retarget them to the humanoid skeleton first before I would be able to apply those other animations from Examo. So I just at this stage used the built-in ones. The scene was meant to be a little bit more involved, and again I think there's time. I wanted to have sort of a full battle sequence where she would fight these orcs, and we'd see some of her power and spell casting abilities, and potentially some sword work as well. I really did like how the lighting worked out, and the sort of 2 layers of fog to give you that effect lower at the ground, and then the volumetricness higher up, as well as the sort of blue tint to everything to give you that kind of night lighting effect. There I'm just mentioning the weird artifact that happened with the light orb. So this last scene as well, I was quite happy with it. The way I simulated moonlight coming through the upper window, the staircase I actually modeled in Blender, and then I used a texture from one of the asset packs in that. The Little bit of an artifact that's coming through there where the transparent texture or the transparent piece of that window seems to be just showing through and having a bit of an edge. It's again just a little bit of a weird thing. I wasn't able to resolve that. I tried moving the window deeper into the wall and all kinds of other tricks, and I just couldn't get that artifact to disappear. Then here the camera flips over, and again little issues that it's not easy to see at this distance, but the flipbook animation of the particle didn't do. It's something weird. It kind of like bounced up a little bit while it was playing, and then got clipped in the box of the particle effect, and that's why the flames look a little square. You kind of see they're flat at the top. It would also probably be a useful thing if there would be a way to just offset them a little bit so that all of the flames don't look like they're playing at exactly the same time. But obviously, because of the way that the timing works, they would all be playing in the same frame, so you'd have to add some kind of randomness to the start time of the flipbook so that it could skip over and then give you the look of the flames being quite a little bit different in each sequence. That book in the background there, I put a little spotlight on it, and you can just see the volumetricness there, and then the dust in the air. I didn't initially like it, but actually with the darkened light, it actually came out very nicely. The monster animation here, I took the Drake model from Mixama, and then I kept the normals, but replaced the texture with a animated sort of procedural texture. I used a sine wave curve and some Voronoi noise, and then some transparency, so that it had that sort of moving. It looks almost like the skin is moving and semi-translucent, and then adding a particle and smoke effect to give us that sort of smoke trail and sparks on it, and then just remodeled the eyes as well, and added a particle and lights to the eyes, and had to do some more blender work there to connect the eyes to the skeleton. And there's me just opening up Blender so that we can see where those eyes were attached to the skeleton, so that when the character moved, the eyes would move with it. Obviously, without that, the eyes were staying above the head of the model. That's me gesturing at how the eyes were sort of staying up above while the body was moving. It looked quite silly. And that is the sequence. Now I know that at this point I realized that the video was already going quite long, but I wanted to show a couple of things in Unity. So that's just talking about my project management tools. I was using Codex, which I discovered a while ago, and I really enjoy working with it for game projects. It kind of gives me a nice visual feel. It's not too onerous. It doesn't introduce too many forced project management methodology things, and you can use what you like. And I've kind of broke the decks up into the different sequences, and then specific things that I had to do work on. The green cards are done cards, and the white cards are to-do cards, and the purple cards are things that are in sort of a snoozed state. Obviously, some of those things include the bugs on the beach and a few other issues like that. All right, so here I was opening up Unity. I realized that I had Unity closed, and I think I paused the video while I wait for Unity to finish loading, because it was taking quite a long time. Clearly still waffling on at some level about what is going on in Codex. Okay, I don't know what I am carrying on about, so clearly have a lot to say. All right, so I think I paused the video here while it was loading, and the video has loaded. So I just wanted to show a couple of the other effects that I had worked on that I hadn't actually managed to implement into the game. I had made a little, almost a meteor storm kind of effect, which was done with a particle that's falling at a random offset direction and speed, and and then on impact with the ground would cause that sort of bounce and an extra explosion, and I added a bit of extra smoke and other effects, and then the trail as well. I had also wanted to give her sword a kind of a flaming sword almost effect. The purple texture or the purple coloring there was just to make it easy to see it. And then, there is some of the other animations that I was working on that would have been part of the combat sequence, where she would kind of dive out of the way of the orc trying to attack her. And one of the lines that I had recorded was the orc then saying to tell her to stand still so that he could hit her. Here is some of the animations. I used Mixamo animations for pretty much all of the animations. I did record as much as I was able to what I was working on, packages that I was intending to use, not necessarily packages that I did use, packages that I looked at and intended to use in my wiki, which has been published for the lecturers. Unfortunately, I can't give it to everybody. For my evaluation process, I used some requests. I asked some Discord channels for people to review some of the video clips and fill in a survey, and I did get some good feedback. I also got some rather nonsensical and useless feedback, which is always to be expected, and that's just me showing my little time tracking utility that I used, and I hadn't realized that I'd worked over 300 hours on this project in the space of less than 4 months. So that's almost 2 months of work in the space of about 4 months. So that is my video. And thank you all for watching and listening. I think it might be too long. There we go. Bye.